Okay, well, welcome everyone, and thank you for your patience. It's a beautiful day to reintroduce the Safe Bet Act. I'd like to thank Senator Blumenthal for leading this effort with me in the Senate, and for our esteemed guests, Gordon, Lisa, and Andrew Douglas. Give a wave there. Gordon, Lisa, and Andrew are a family that have been impacted by addiction. And we also have Harry Levant and Mark Gottlieb and Dick Daynard for making the trip to D.C. We thank you for doing that. As we stand here today, tens of millions of Americans are anxiously awaiting the beginning of March Madness, basketball tournaments that create one of the greatest spectacles in all of sports history. And in exactly 1 week, those Americans will be placing and most likely losing bets made on their favorite teams. Last year, the American people wagered and lost almost $14 billion betting on sports. That's a 25% increase from 2023's record of $11 billion. The industry labels that record number as revenue. It's a number to be celebrated and revered. But the reality is that $14 billion in revenue for the gambling industry is $14 billion extracted from the pockets of everyday Americans. And the even greater concern and the even greater reality is that most of that revenue is made off of the suffering of a disproportionately small number of gamblers. Every year since the 2018 Supreme Court decision that allowed for the widespread legalization of sports betting, the gambling industry has broken revenue records. And every year, more and more Americans are negatively affected by the wide-ranging harms of problem gambling. We're not here today because we want to stop the gambling industry from breaking more records, nor are we here to prevent Americans from wagering on sports should they choose to. We're here today because government at every level has failed to pay attention to or understand the impact of gambling-related harms. It's important to balance public health with competing economic interests. Trust me, I understand that. But when every single solitary moment of every sporting event across the globe has become a betting opportunity in the palm of your hand, government must put its duty to protect its citizens from harm first. In that vein, I'm proud to have been a champion on addiction issues for my entire career. I serve as chair of the Addiction Treatment and Recovery Caucus in the House of Representatives, and over the years I fought hard to expand access to mental health and substance use care, worked on the nation's first mental health parity legislation, and led the fight to address opioid addiction and tear down barriers to life-saving medications. That's why I've been so concerned about the growing public health crisis that's emerged since the rapid widespread legalization and promotion of sports gambling. For more than 10 years, gambling has been recognized as an addictive product, and gambling disorder as an addiction is akin to heroin, opioid, tobacco, alcohol, and cocaine use. So studies demonstrate that 1 out of every 2 people struggling with gambling problems will contemplate suicide, and tragically 1 out of 5 will make an attempt. I want to emphasize that this is the highest rate of any addiction. I've had the opportunity to meet numerous individuals and families who are suffering with gambling addiction and gambling-related harm. The countless stories of lives destroyed by sports betting are indeed heartbreaking. Today, you'll have the opportunity to hear directly from a family who has lived through that heartache. When sportsbooks host and promote an addictive product with features they know are linked to higher risks of gambling-related harm, and then shift the burden of responsibility onto the individual player, I think of those stories and those families. That's why this version of the Safe Bet Act attempts to take aim at some of the industry's most predatory tactics. To recap, the Sporting Affordability and Fairness with Every Bet Act requires states that have legalized mobile sports betting to ensure operators are meeting minimum federal standards in 3 key categories. That would be marketing, affordability, and artificial intelligence. It bans prop bets, requires federal data collection on the use of sports betting, and a Surgeon General's report examining the public health impacts, and it creates a national self-exclusion list. In the 119th session of Congress, we're taking on industry practices that are specifically designed to take advantage of folks who are struggling with problem gambling. These are the practices that keep someone betting even if they shouldn't be. New minimum safety standards now include bans on reload bonuses and tier and VIP programs. We require sports books to disclose the actual true odds for wagers, especially high-stakes ones, so that their customers know exactly the kind of risk they're taking with their hard-earned money. SafeBet now also includes a provision to require states and sports books to work with the federal government to shut down illegal and unlicensed gambling platforms. These standards are common sense and encouraged by the world's leading public health experts. Just this November, The Lancet published a report on the urgent need for a public health response to gambling. Much of what they laid out recommendation-wise aligns exactly with the core principles of the SafeBet Act. They also confront the misleading assertions from the gambling industry that this product is simply entertainment enjoyed by millions, the overwhelming majority of whom do not suffer from gambling-related harm, and any regulation of such encroaches upon the freedom of individuals. Well, imagine if the federal government allowed the tobacco or alcohol industry to operate unregulated under this philosophy. A philosophy that says if you can't manage this responsibly, then you're on your own. Or call this 1-800 number and I'm sure you'll be fine. Here's $50 in credits to come back when you're ready. We in Congress owe the American people much better protections and better support than that. And to be very, very clear, we are in no way attempting to ban gambling on sports. But the Supreme Court explicitly gives Congress the green light to regulate sports betting directly. That's what we're here to do. Congress must protect Americans from the harms that come from this known addictive product. If there's any nomenclature that we can stress here today, it's known addictive product. If we don't understand that as the tone of this press conference and of this legislation, we're missing the point. A known addictive product. Congress must do all it can. A Wild West, self-regulated approach will not prevent a public health crisis. I call on all those who have a stake in the world of sports betting to get behind the SafeBet Act and this common-sense public health approach. We share a collective duty to protect Americans and their families from suffering the tremendous harm related to gambling addiction. Now I'm proud to introduce my partner in the Senate on this critical effort and a champion, true champion, addressing gambling-related harm, Senator Blumenthal. We're proud to have your support. We look forward to working with you in this bicameral effort and bipartisan effort. And with that, I introduce you to the podium here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Tonko, for your steadfast, energetic advocacy. Thank you to Professor Daynard and to Andrew Douglas, to Harry Levant, all of the advocates who are here, especially all of you who have been through this kind of problem. And let me just say right at the outset, we're here on the eve of March Madness, not to prohibit sports betting, but to make it safer, to stop the sports betting industry from abhorrently exploiting addiction, purposely and relentlessly driving people deeper into gambling abuse disorder, which is a disease like all addictions. And it should be prevented, not amplified or exploited. The term March Madness is meant to imply an exuberance and joy, as well as enthusiasm. But let's be very clear. Sports betting has become a science. It is the science of exploitation and targeting and tracking individuals who are prone to addiction, targeting and tracking losers, and inducing and enticing them to bet more and drive them into ruin. That's the abuse that we are trying to stop through the Safe Bet Act. And it happens literally every day. Get smart to what's happening in real life and real time and support a bill that very simply establishes some rules and standards, not a prohibition. Rules and standards that say you can't advertise betting within certain hours when kids are most exposed to it. Rules and standards that say you can't target the losers with promotions and bonuses and supposedly sure bets. You can't make the kinds of pitches that stop people from excluding themselves or fail to give them options to exclude themselves when they know they are getting into trouble. You need to respect your customers. You need to protect them from the kind of disease that can result from the abusive behavior of this industry. Now, for me, in some ways, the most important part of this bill is the self-exclusion list, because people want to break the addiction. They want to quit, just as many who are addicted to nicotine or illicit drugs want to break those addictions. And the disease can be broken by people who adopt a place on the self-exclusion list. We want sports betting companies to respect that list, to provide that option, and to respect people's stated desire. I don't want to see your promotions anymore. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. They have the wherewithal to sacrifice a little bit of their products and profits to make sure that people's lives are preserved. And we have seen again and again and again the ruinous effects of this addiction. Broken families, ended careers, shattered lives, not only financial ruin, but for some, self-harm, including suicide, especially among young people who lack the experience to see that there may be hope for them in the midst of piles of debt and the prospect of mounting or deepening addiction. So I am hoping that we will have bipartisan support for this measure. It's an idea whose time has come. We're going to keep fighting for it as long and hard as it takes, because lives are at stake. We cannot allow the sports betting industry to exploit young people as well as others of all ages all across the country. The demographic is boundless. It's well-to-do and poor. It's all religions and all races. It's all parts of the country. We are all susceptible to this addiction in our families, our coworkers. Everyone knows someone who has been a victim and hopefully a survivor of these illicit and morally reprehensible practices on the part of the sports betting industry. And again, it's a science. The algorithms, the artificial intelligence are all tools to drive pitches and promotions at the losers, the most vulnerable, the people who are most susceptible to this addiction. That's the tactic and the science at work here. And the new technology has opened new vistas for sports betting industry companies to exploit addiction and disease. So I hope we will have support for it, and I'm proud to introduce the next speaker, who is Harry Levant. Yeah. Harry Levant.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Good afternoon. One of the most sacred duties of our federal government is to protect the health and safety of the American people, including families and children. When for-profit businesses combine and collaborate to place profits over safety, Congress is called to act. Time and again, the American people have been protected when Congress delivers with public health reform. Today, because of the leadership of Congressman Paul Tonko and Senator Richard Blumenthal, the American people will again be protected, this time from the dangerous and predatory actions of the gambling industry and its sports and media partners. Let me be clear from the start. I am not opposed to sports gambling. I am not a prohibitionist. I am not opposed. In fact, I support the properly regulated legalization of sports gambling. However, I am vehemently opposed and deeply concerned about what has transpired in less than 7 years since the Supreme Court struck down the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act. What has been launched on the American people is a newly created and AI-generated online gambling business model, which delivers a fundamentally different, defectively designed, and inherently dangerous gambling product to every phone, tablet, computer, and television. As Congressman Tonko noted, we have known for nearly 12 years that gambling is a highly addictive product, and gambling disorder and addiction, just like heroin, opioids, tobacco, alcohol, and cocaine. However, with every other addictive product or substance, government regulates the advertising, promotion, distribution, and consumption of that product. And this is to prevent public harm. With gambling, the exact opposite is occurring. The gambling industry business model is designed to deliver constant and nonstop gambling action to every electronic device. Now, with the use of cutting-edge technology involving incredible computing power and the advent of artificial intelligence, the gambling industry and its sports partners have combined every micro moment in each game into a gambling opportunity. Each and every game provides hundreds, if not thousands, of gambling options, each created by artificial intelligence. Equally dangerous is the gambling industry use of VIP hosts and tier reward programs, where the gambling companies target and reward people for actually increasing their gambling action. VIP hosts use a wide array of incentives and induce people to keep gambling. These incentives often include tickets, gifts, cash bonuses, trips, restaurant meals, and more. This is the equivalent of a neighborhood drug dealer rewarding their best customers to make certain they never stop wanting or needing more action. We are no longer talking about recreational sports betting. Gambling takes place on every micro event within sporting events, from the speed of the next baseball pitch to every football snap, basketball shot, and tennis serve. This includes basketball from China and even ping pong from Eastern Europe. This new and AI-fueled business model encourages people to chase action, and the chasing of action results in more gambling addiction and more gambling-related harm. The chasing of action is a symptom I see each day in my work as a therapist, meeting with patients and families suffering the most dire and devastating effects of gambling disorder. These effects include financial ruin, desperation, suicidal ideation, depression, anxiety, career loss, housing insecurity, criminal behavior. The fundamental problem from a public health perspective is that this new and dangerous business model is intentionally designed to deliver nonstop action. This is what online sports gambling does. The leagues, the teams, the players sell their data and statistics to the gambling industry for billions and billions of dollars. The industry then uses artificial intelligence to create nonstop gambling action. This is the sports gambling business model, which has been launched on the American people. Sports once belonged to the American people, to be shared by grandparents, parents, and children. Those days are gone. The sports leagues have sold out to the gambling industry, and sports are now the equivalent of a nonstop slot machine where the action never ends. I thought long and hard about how to demonstrate the predatory ways that gambling companies and sports leagues deliver nonstop action. Should I talk about baseball pitches or laps in NASCAR races? Last week, I was giving a speech in Detroit, Michigan. At 9:30 on a Tuesday morning, I put a DraftKings display, live action, on the board for a crowd of 500 to see. And at 9:15 in the morning, DraftKings was taking gambling action on badminton, a game we played in our backyards. Badminton, a game played with a shuttlecock while people barbecue hot dogs on a grill. That's what sports gambling has become. The Safe Bet Act will protect the American people by installing minimum federal safety standards and respecting state rights. SafeBet will permit states to increase regulations if they desire, but will protect the American people with minimum federal standards, which will include affordability checks, deposit limits, reasonable marketing restrictions, the end of VIP programs, the end of reload bonuses, regulation of AI, banning college prop bets, and a partnership with the gambling industry and state government to end offshore sports books. I look forward to working with Congressman Tonko, Senator Blumenthal, and bipartisan members of both chambers to see that the Safe Bet Act is passed and the American people are protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Well, thank you. And thank you, Senator, for your powerful words and your partnership. And Harry, thank you for all the guidance with this legislation. I first met Harry in Philadelphia at his invitation to tour the gambling treatment program at Ethos Treatment, where Harry works as a certified gambling counselor. And I have to tell you, it just built more passion in me to get this legislation across the finish line. It's now my honor to introduce someone who knows far better than most the devastating impact of gambling-related harm. I can mention to you that in my district and beyond, I've had a number of families who are concerned about addiction in their family through gambling, who have spoken to me saying, keep up the fight. We need this. They're frightened, they're concerned, they've seen devastation. And last time we met in this same spot, Gordon Douglas joined us. He is a husband and father to 3 children, one of whom is here with us today. Last year, Gordon came to D.C. to share his son Andrew's story. He did a powerful bit of expression about what the struggle's all about. And today we are so privileged to not only have Gordon, but also his wife Lisa and their son Andrew. And together they've supported each other in this struggle. And they're going to share with us how unregulated sports betting has impacted their lives. So to the Douglas family, please. Gordon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Congressman Tonko and Senator Blumenthal. Thank you, Harry Levant, and thank you, Dick and Mark, for all the work you're doing in this area of gambling. We appreciate the opportunity to be back here today as part of the reintroduction of this Safe Bet Act. It was almost 6 months to the day since I was here the last time. Like the Congressman said, my name is Gordon Douglas, and this is my wife, Lisa. As I told you last time, we have a son, Andrew, who's 32 years old, and I'm so happy to have Andrew here with us today as part of this. He started making bets while he was in college, some small bets that were innocent. These innocent bets ultimately became an addiction for him. And online betting became so easy when he actually moved to Pennsylvania. His gambling addiction almost ruined his life. It certainly took some years of his life away and came close to ending in tragedy. His addiction damaged our relationship with him because it only was about what he could get to help fuel his betting. The most important piece of the story is that this addiction was hidden from us because it can be done on a telephone at any hour of the day and night. There's virtually no way to reach a safe time or place away from the possibilities of making a bet. Gambling can be done in secret on your phone without anyone knowing it. Once a person is identified as a gambler, the sites offering you opportunities to place bets are impossible to escape. We support the Safe Bet Act because we feel like there needs to be some guardrails and protection for those who have identified themselves as having gambling problems. As I said last time, our story did not end in tragedy. By the strength and power of God, the prayers of friends and family, our eyes were open to what was going on, and Andrew was able to get help. It was a miracle. That miracle continues to this day. He has put in countless hours in recovery and faces that addiction daily with courage and strength. It is a treatment that is every bit as hard as any substance abuse. We cannot be prouder to stand here today to introduce you to our son, Andrew, and let him speak to you.
There's a proud dad.
Hi, I'm Andrew Douglas. I don't have a speech because I am here to just tell my story. I suffer from gambling addiction and have dealt with all these things that each one of these men have mentioned before. May 27th, 2024 was the day that I attempted to end my own life. Gambling addiction had a hold of me and had taken me to the darkest hole that I could ever imagine. For years and years, constantly being targeted and no way to escape the advertising, the offers, the predatory and targeted business practices of all these gambling sites, apps, and all the above. This Safe Bet Act and me being here today are in hopes to save or help at least one person out there. There's many stories exactly like mine, and a lot more that didn't end with the miracle that mine did. And the hope is to save future generations from having to go through what my family, myself, have had to go through. Working with Harry Levant the past 9 months has been a godsend. It's been fantastic, and it's opened my eyes even more to the amount of people that struggle with the exact same thing that I did. All those years I thought I was alone. All those years I thought I had no hope. And was very close to ending that journey on a very bad note. Luckily, I'm here to be able to speak and hopefully hit one person's heart with my story in hopes that we can get some things changed and protect people from having to deal with what I had to deal with. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for the help and all the work we've been doing. And yeah, that's my story. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I would say there's one courageous family that has pulled together to deal with the darkness that befell Andrew, and it's so happy a moment to hear the success that's been achieved. And Andrew, we congratulate you on your recovery and wish you strength as you go forward. Let's hear from the president of PHAI and longtime public health advocate, Dick Daynard. Professor Daynard and his team at PHAI have been with me every step of the way in this push to create a public health approach to the sports betting industry. His experience fighting for people and for public health, including going up and winning against big tobacco, has saved countless lives. PHI's work in this space is invaluable, and I'm so thankful to have both Professor Daynard and PHI's Executive Director, Mark Gottlieb, here today as we reintroduce the Safe Bet Act. So, gentlemen.
Thank you, Congressman. Good afternoon. For decades, the
You should explain you're not Dick Daynard.
I am not Dick Daynard. I'm Mark Gottlieb. I'm going to bring up Professor Daynard in just a moment. For decades, the Public Health Advocacy Institute at Northeastern University School of Law has been protecting people from products designed to generate corporate profits largely by addicting their customers, especially where that addiction occurs at a scale and seriousness that harms population health. Population health is where thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of individuals suffer injuries to their mental or physical well-being. And in the case of online sports gambling, these are our neighbors with families and skills and dreams who have had their lives derailed, often along with the lives of their loved ones, once they begin to regularly use these high-speed, data-driven, intense sports gambling products. And how are they using them? Well, they're using them exactly as the products are designed and intended to be used. And you may ask, aren't they responsible for their own harm? Well, of course. And so are those who design, market, and distribute these products, as well as the policymakers who are empowered to regulate them. Responsibility for addictive products cannot lie solely with the end user. The testimony of the Douglas family is but one of countless examples of the types of harm that ruin lives and contributes to often overwhelming economic and mental health burdens that can potentially lead to a loss of life or even suicide. So the key to making sports gambling safer is to slow it down. We make our roads safer with guardrails and with speed limits, and without these, constant injuries and deaths on our roads would not only be a grim feature of our society, but would contribute to losses in productivity, higher healthcare costs, and devastation to affected families and communities. And even with speed limits and guardrails, driving is far from risk-free, but it is vastly safer and allows our ground transportation system to work. The Safe Bet Act slows things down and applies these same principles to sports gambling by setting minimum standards that slow down the action, by eliminating in-game microbetting powered by artificial intelligence, and by building guardrails like affordability checks and limits on marketing promotions that encourage unsafe use of these products. Such promotions tie bonuses and other benefits to requirements for users to place large number of wagers during short windows of time. The type of play that these promotions require is just the sort of gambling activity that creates a higher risk of addiction. So there's a big difference between promotions rewarding customers with something like what airlines do with frequent flyer bonuses when we're talking about a known addictive product. We don't allow bars, for example, to offer buy 3 drinks, get the 4th one free promotions. That would be irresponsible. And so are the sorts of marketing practices that are addressed by the Safe Bet Act. The gambling companies talk about responsible play, and the Safe Bet Act will require it. There is a need for rules that recognize that sports gambling products, while potentially entertaining, are at the same time potentially dangerous, addictive, and require these minimum safety and consumer protection standards. Even with such minimum standards, sports gambling won't ever be risk-free, but it will be significantly safer for the American people, and it will still provide them with entertainment and remain a profitable industry. So we at the Public Health Advocacy Institute are grateful to Congressman Tonko and Senator Blumenthal for allowing us to be part of the Safe Bet Act and are committed long-term to making online gambling safer by advocating for responsible public health regulations. And by long-term, you can get a sense of what I'm talking about if you ask the tobacco industry, who we've been working to rein in for over 4 decades now. And the person who has been doing that the longest as our organization's president and founder and my mentor, University's distinguished Professor Richard Daynard from Northeastern University School of Law. And he gravitated toward this issue after decades of a health leader by using his legal and tactical superpowers to take on big tobacco. In fact, he was the subject of a Time magazine profile earlier this year, which also featured quotes from Dr. Levant, as well as Senator Blumenthal. Professor Daynard?
Thank you. Thank you, Mark, and I will be brief. Like cigarettes, online sports gambling apps are a highly addictive product designed to entrap consumers into compulsive use, robbing them of free choice as well as their money. The Safe Bet Act aims, among other things, to eliminate the predatory features of current sports betting apps, including in-game betting and prop betting that give the constant pushing the button, constant shot of dopamine in the brain that sustains the addiction. So this aims to eliminate those features, still allowing users to bet on the game, but not to bet compulsively, instead of even watching the game. My trainer at Northeastern at the gym was a college senior last year, and he was at the Super Bowl, and he was there with his friends from freshman year, and they were all together, supposedly to watch the Super Bowl. He was actually watching the Super Bowl The other dozen or so kids in the room were all betting on their phones. They were all betting on the game. They weren't watching the game. So this will take us back. This will help take us back to the time when people get together to actually watch the game, cheer for their their team and their favorite players, perhaps boo when the other team does well, and all together have a very good time sharing the experience of watching and participating vicariously in the game. Okay, so as founder and president of PHAI, I'm proud to lead the mission of bringing comprehensive public health reform and regulation to the gambling industry. We at PHAI are privileged to stand with Congressman Tonko and with Senator Blumenthal, and our organization will work tirelessly to support the Safe Bet Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me thank the many speakers that joined us today. I think it's so important. But I think in the rush to give a green light nationally to states to enter into the mobile sports betting arena, there needed to be more thought. And now it's an afterthought, but it still requires our assistance to make certain an unregulated Wild West environment is brought into a regulated situation that will provide for appropriate and necessary response to a known addictive product. So is it necessary? Absolutely. Is it justified? Absolutely. Is it morally sound? Absolutely. And it's the right thing to do. So to Andrew and his family, thank you for being here today. You've provided the inspiration, the purpose to get this done. And we're going to continue to work until we cross that finish line. So this is about doing the right thing. So we'll now move to any questions the media might have.
Apologies, but we have to wrap up to prepare the space for the presser. So if you do have any questions for our speakers, if you could just move to the side, that would be excellent, just to prepare for that space. Thank you so much.
Congressman, you didn't bring paddles?
No, I should have. I said, John, is it bad that you should?
Yeah, no, Chinese ping pong at 3 a.m. That's what I heard at your clinic. Yeah. 5 a.m. going into the